The Ryan and Ryan Power Hour podcast on SportsTownChicago.com.
And it looks like we got a caller on the line.
Yes, we do. SportsTownChicago.com. Who is this?
Hi, guys. This is Anubhav from Naperville.
How's it going, Anubhav?
Great. How's everything? How were the holidays and New Year and everything?
They went pretty well. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Yeah, it was fun.
When do you have to go back to college?
Yeah, I'll be heading back this weekend. But right now, I'm, even though football for Chicago is over, I mean, we're still tuned into the Bears as I was during the season.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Now, how do you feel about the Bears hiring Ryan Pace as the general manager?
Honestly, I think this is a great hire because Ryan Pace is a guy, he's fairly young, but most importantly, he has really solid experience coming from an organization that has already won a Super Bowl, and I think that that can be an advantage for us versus Chris Ballard, who was with the Bears organization for quite some time, but he was with the Angelo, Phil Emery. He was with that regime, and it's kind of nice to get away from that and get an outsider to help fix this football team.
Right, and I completely agree there. And, I mean, it was nice to get a fresh new face in there, and someone that has a strong history of drafting and not relying on free agency like the old Bears regime.
Exactly, because, even Ryan Pace said in his press conference, he admitted that, look, the Packers, the Lions, two teams that we always compete with year in, year out in our division, they've made some solid draft choices, and that's really the reason why they are where they are, and in the postseason year in, year out. So the key is two things in deciding if we can call Ryan Pace a great GM or not. One would be, of course, a head coaching hire, and second would be draft. What will he do with the 7th pick? And, of course, from there on out, we'll see. And one thing I took away from his press conference was he talked a lot about character, leadership, and he used coaching. But in reality, I think he was kind of talking about the quarterback position. And that being said, if I'm Jay Cutler right now, I'm a little worried about my job security, at least in Chicago.
Yeah, I also agree with that, too. And, okay, so if you're Ryan Pace right now, who do you hire as the head coach? Me and Ryan Risky, we both agree that Todd Bowles would be the best pick for the Bears. Who do you think is the best pick?
That's a good question. I would definitely take Todd Bowles. I think we have to go back to defense. We can't, because this organization is known for two things really: a smash mouth defense and running the football. And if we go back to what we're known for, that's really our key to success now. Sure, the passing game and his offense good. Yes, it's actually important. But if you look at some good teams right now in the playoffs, I mean, they have some solid defenses. And you need that defense to be good. I don't care if Bowles goes to 3-4 or 4-3. Just make that defense good enough to stop. Just make some stops, and offense, I say just run the football. If you really can't trust Jay Cutler when it comes to his throwing acumen.
Right. It'll be interesting, though, because if the Bears actually are committed to building a good football team, it starts with good coaching, and you're going to want to hire a good quarterbacks coach and a good offensive coordinator and not just have incompetent morons like Mark Trestman and his entire staff. So, obviously, now you just want to go and see what he could do, maybe with proper coaching, because throughout his whole time with the Bears, he really hasn't had any good coaching. It's been the cheap back guys that nobody wants, that they can hire, the cheapest guys in the league. That's just, in my opinion, how it's gone. So, maybe seeing what they can do with proper coaching, because, Jay Cutler just sounds like he just tunes out these guys because they don't know what they're talking about.
You know what? That's a good point, Ryan. Again, yesterday I got the news that Kyle Shanahan, he's done with the Browns. So, I don't know if Kyle Shanahan and Jay Cutler can coexist. That's to be determined. But I will say this, and this is pretty surprising. Mark Trestman is actually getting, getting some interest around the league, like from Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Atlanta. And it's so interesting because you said he's incompetent, but then again, he's still getting interest from these football teams.
Because they see what he does to the different quarterbacks like Jimmy Clausen and Josh McCown. He can make them look like Aaron Rodgers at times. However, the thing is, that was as a head coach. He may have been one of the worst head coaching hires ever in Bears history. Granted, they've only had 14 head coaches. There's a reason for that. Anyways, he was a horrible head coach. Didn't know what he was doing. Now, the job of being the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach, which is a job he was hired to do when they hired him as the head coach, they wanted him to do the job of an offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach. That's the job they wanted him to do. And then, of course, he had coaching disaster.
Well, yeah, and again, this one's also on that one's totally on Phil Emery. But I will say this: one really good thing about this Ryan Pace hire is I think Ernie Accorsi's consulting or whatever actually paid off, because if they hired Chris Ballard, then what was really the point of Ernie Accorsi? If you already knew all along that, hey, let's hire the guy that was part of our organization. So now, since Ballard didn't get the job, it's Ryan Pace. I feel like Ernie had a pretty good say in. Again, Ryan also mentioned that he's going to be part of the head coaching process. So I'm positive that they'll get this coaching right. I just hope they don't pull out a wild card name, like someone not named Todd Bowles or anything like that, because the last thing you want is in 2017 or 2018, whenever, to come back in this position and be like, oh, now we have to look for another head coach, because at that point that's just a shame.
Yeah.
Right, and there's other good head coaching candidates out there like Adam Gage. I mean, his first year with Peyton Manning resulted in the greatest passing season by a quarterback in NFL history. I mean, so he definitely knows a lot about offense, and he'd probably be interested in a job. I mean, Bowles he's the most ideal candidate in my opinion. However, I wouldn't mind Adam Gage or Dan Quinn. I mean, the Seattle defensive coordinator. However, there might be a major talent difference from the Seahawks to the Bears, and that might cause a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and really, it really comes down to personnel. And again, my hope is this off season, that they try to fix the defense as much as possible. I know, first of all, they need a solid linebacker. Then they could start from anywhere: weak side, strong side, mid, anywhere. We need to start from linebacker, and then secondary is beyond awful. I think we all know that. So I say first round, maybe if there's a linebacker that you're interested in, certainly take a linebacker. And then second round, maybe look for a safety, because I wouldn't mind looking at the safety position from second round. First round, I just don't think that's a good idea. And then from there with the draft, just keep making sure you're hitting the right pieces. And of course, do mistakes happen? Yes, they happen with every GM when it comes to draft. It's just you better hope that Ryan Pace does not take a Shane McClellan type of guy.
He said he's taking the best player available. He's not taking some no name that nobody's ever heard of that you could have gotten in the first round.
Exactly. Okay, so if he's going to take the best, then it's great. And another thing, I think I was reading an article yesterday about James Winston, Bears, whatever. There's no way in hell we should consider Jameis Winston right now. Just that's not a good idea. Right now, just stick with what we need. We need to fix the defense. And then when it comes to a quarterback, if there's a decent quarterback in the draft, maybe in the third round, somewhere in the third round or fifth round, I would take him and see if he has some talent. And maybe what Bears can do, the Bears can probably do the same thing they did the San Francisco 49ers did a couple of years ago with, transitioning from Alex Smith to Colin Kaepernick. Now, granted, Kaepernick is terrible now, but they did a transition like that. Maybe we could do something like that with Jade, this new guy.
And I agree with you there. But also, it's interesting. I feel like Jay Cutler, he wasn't doing as well, obviously, as he had in the past because Mark Trestman was there. So I think once they hire the new head coach and they get the season going for 2015, I think Jay Cutler will be back to being not necessarily a great quarterback, but a very serviceable, a very good quarterback, and one that's capable of winning 10+ games for them.
Yeah, again, one can certainly hope that with this new coaching staff, everything works out. But again, few things, and I'm just taking away from Ryan Pace's press conference, which I thought it was fairly promising. But then again, I thought Phil Emery's press conference was promising, and look where that got us today. But then again, he talks about character and stuff. Hopefully, Jay Cutler passes that test, if you will, with personality, leadership, character. Because the last thing you want is someone who really doesn't care, and then next thing you know, that's just a bad sign, not only for you as a player, but just for the organization.
Right. I mean, really, we know who Jay Cutler is off the field. I mean, he's really doesn't seem to be the greatest guy, except he does have the talent, and with the proper coaching, I mean, granted, he'll probably be he'll be 31 or 32 next year, except they'll probably get more out of him than what Mark Trestman was. And now, going back to the draft, now, obviously, you don't want to take a safety with the 7th overall pick because right now the defense has so many more holes where you need pass rushers, you need a middle linebacker, you need outside linebacker. So
Exactly. Go ahead.
You need a middle linebacker to anchor the defense. I mean, Luke Kuechly is the guy for Carolina. I mean, he's the guy that anchors that defense. And I don't think the middle linebacker class is going to have someone like that, or even a C.J. Mosley that you'll want to take with a 7th overall pick. So maybe you'll want to take a good defensive end or an outside linebacker that can pass rush and read defenses better than John Bostic. Now, obviously, you might want to take a safety maybe the 3rd round, or you could go out and try to sign a couple of guys that are kind of like Ryan Mundy that won't break the bank and don't have much of a chance to be a bust, except Phil Emery, in my opinion, I thought he just completely ignored the safety position, just thought that you didn't need good safeties because no general manager in their right mind would go back with Chris Conte that last season after the season he had prior to last one, and it's not like he did anything last year. So, I mean, I thought he completely ignored the safety position. I mean, he did absolutely nothing. And if you're the Bears, you can't expect to have good safeties when all your safeties are either guys that should be playing on special teams or guys that you draft in the 5th round or later in the draft.
Good point right there, Ryan. I mean, you have to, when it comes to safeties, you just have to pay attention because, let's face it, I was just thinking about this, and it still hurts me to think about it, to be quite honest with you. But in 2013, in that NFC North title game against the Packers, really, it was 4th and 8, and if only they got close to Rodgers and sacked him, that game would have been over. We would have been going to the playoffs. He would have been NFC North champions.
Right.
In 2013.
Yeah, that wasn't the only play in that game, because remember, James Anderson didn't pick up that fumble when he just just stood still and stared at it, and bye-bye, James.
That too. And you're right about that. But
I mean, granted, that doesn't excuse Conte from anything. The guy just didn't know what he was doing there. And there's another play in that game when that he dove and an interception went right through his arms.
Oh, gosh.
I remember that one. So, I mean, if they had a competent safety on that team, they would have been the NFC North champs.
Although they would have been killed by the 49ers in the playoffs, probably.
But here's the thing. Would you rather still go to the playoffs? And sure, it sucks losing in the wild card round, but at least it's better than being a player and at home and watching TV. The entire idea is this Bears organization needs to make the postseason. It's already bad that we had a season that we did this past year, but the fact that we're missing the postseason, I mean, okay, sure, just the difference of a few games here and there, really. One NFL fan can ask us, what's the main difference between the Bears and the Raiders? Because if you guys are not making a postseason, it makes no difference. I don't care if you're 2-14 or 5-11. It's all about making the postseason and then going from there. That's all I have to say.
Tell me this. So let's say the Bears beat Green Bay that year and they finish the season 9-7, NFC North champs, losing the first round of the playoffs, and then this season still goes exactly how it did. Do you guys think that Mark Trestman still gets fired after this season, considering they would have made the playoffs the year before?
No, I think they would have tried to stick with Trestman for at least one more year.
One more. I think they would have given Trestman one more shot at this. But
and Emery would probably still be there. They'd probably give them all one more chance to get it right because they had already made the playoffs. However, they missed the playoffs both years, and the defenses were just like that. High school teams could have put up 500 yards.
I wonder who they would have gotten in the draft this upcoming spring had Phil Emery stayed. I wonder like who they would have drafted.
Some
like if it
guy
would have
we had
even